Hi, my name is Rachel and welcome back to Auxhart Gardening. Today is our week 14 garden tour, and I think this is a really important garden tour because the garden is actually out of its luscious stage and kind of coming into that kind of ugly transitional period right before fall. And I think that it's really important that you guys see the garden like this, because this is the part that a lot of people aren't going to show you. This is the part where the garden starts to look a little ugly, and I want you guys to see the full transitional period so that you can know what's actually normal for you to start seeing this time of year. Oh look, it's one of our garden cats. This is Booger. It's what the children of the neighborhood named him. He's very sweet. So already as we're starting out, you can see that the row of sunflowers is looking incredibly sad. And while my tomato wall is still very full of foliage, it is not the healthiest looking foliage in every case. And I could probably come through here, and I probably will, prune off some of the worst looking stuff and just kind of clean it up a bit so that it has enough air flow for one more growth spurt before the end of the season, because tomatoes will keep going all the way up until the frost kills them. So there's nothing saying that you cannot continue to grow tomatoes as long as your tomato plants are still alive. Sunflowers, on the other hand, at least these ones, pretty much done. They have made their seeds and the birds have eaten a lot of the seeds out of them, and they can be safely pulled out of the garden at this point. I just haven't really gotten around to it, and I kind of also wanted you guys to see just what this is looking like. This nasturtium, though, is looking really nice. Finally actually looking like it's growing, and it's putting on these beautiful blooms. So during the highest heat of the summer, it wasn't looking so hot, but now that it's cooled down relatively, it is doing a little better. And if you haven't heard me say it before, nasturtiums are edible. Oh, hello. My purple basil is maybe the only basil plant that I can still eat off of. It is the only one that kind of looks healthy enough, and also I was able to keep most of the flowers off. The rest of my basil plants, as you'll see, have turned kind of a sickly yellow color. And the only other one out here, the cinnamon basil, I let go to seed, so much so that it's probably not super tasty anymore, but it still does smell lovely, and the bees love it, and it is gorgeous. I recently put it in a floral arrangement that I brought to a friend, and these little bits sticking out the flower stalks were really, really pretty in it. I would say out of everything in the garden, the eggplants actually look the best. They look the healthiest. There's this one leaning down in front of me, but otherwise they look really great. And you can see they're putting on another flush of fruit. So there's this one's putting on another flower, pretty flowers. And so these will keep producing like the tomatoes, but it looks like they're looking healthier than the tomatoes. If y'all didn't know, this is my first year growing eggplant, and I think it went pretty well. What do y'all think? Oh, look at this one down here. Oop. Here's another example of something that has died in the garden though. This was marigolds. These were the really tall ones, and you can see they've got their dried flower heads over there. And a lot of the ones that I planted are actually just dying off. The ones that I got from the store, those are the ones that grew up bushier. Those ones I would say are mostly still alive. So I think that's interesting, something to note. I'm not sure if I killed the ones that are dead. It could just be, like I mentioned before, that they're a different variety and maybe they have a bit of a different life cycle that they're working off of. You will find with things in the garden that there's a lot of not really sure, and that's okay. There's not a clear answer for everything. And so if you need to have a clear answer for everything, then you're gonna be pretty frustrated by gardening. My green beans, now that I decided to stop picking them, also look pretty devastated. I'm not sure if this is entirely because I stopped picking them or just because it is coming to the end of the season, but I think that with plants like these, once they feel like they've reproduced, they will definitely just kind of stop preserving themselves and trying so hard. And some of these I could probably still pick and they would be fine, but some of these other ones are definitely too far gone and ready to be shelled for dry beans. Despite there being a lot of stuff kind of thinning out and dying, walking through this garden is still quite a struggle. But the peppers are doing much better than I would have anticipated at this point in the season. I don't know if y'all remember, somewhat early on, it looked like they were getting some disease, which you can see still some remnants of here. But it failed to overtake the plants. And I don't know if that's because of what I did or just because the plants started growing too fast. But what I did, if it did work, is I spread bokashi grain on the ground right underneath where the plants are, because I was pretty sure that this infection was fungal and that was coming from the soil, splashing up onto the leaves when it rains and then spreading from leaf to leaf. It definitely looked like it was a contact-based pathogen. And so I spread some bokashi on the ground to try and outcompete the bad microbes with good microbes. And I don't know if that worked at all, but that's what I did. And my plants are still alive. The peppers are definitely coming down from the bounty of a couple of weeks ago. There's not so many ripe peppers anymore, but there are a lot of fresh growth, new flowers coming on, which means that in a couple more weeks I will have even more peppers than I did the first time, which will be great. We'll find something to do with them. Sunflowers in the back were planted just a little later, so they're not dying quite as much right now, but they're definitely still at the end of their life cycle. And these are pretty tall sunflowers. They're a different variety than the ones that I planted on the tomato side. And you can see I've got a bag over one of these heads because I'm hoping to actually save the seeds. This area where the tomatoes, well, the second tomatoes were trellised and then fell and then trellised and then fell again, still looks very lush because there's a bunch of tomato vines crawling along the ground. And the zinnias actually are still blooming. They've been blooming all season and they have been absolutely gorgeous. I mean, just look at that. I'm like pretty glad that my garden is overrun with zinnias. Oh, I just saw this little guy. He must have just hatched. Yeah, no, this is not for you, buddy. Tomato hornworms like that can be especially destructive to your garden. Most of the time I try not to mess too much, but they can eat an entire plant down in a day, and that would definitely throw the balance off given the small nature of my garden. So tomato hornworms are not really tolerated. Something has definitely been chomping on my new pole bean plants, but I think so far they look like they'll be okay. You can see that this one is just starting to put off the bit that's going to vine up, and I think once that happens the growth speeds up a lot and whatever's eating them will not be able to keep up with that. The noodle bean trellis still looks fairly impressive. You can see it's thinning out on one side, but for the most part you can still kind of walk through it and feel like you're in a tunnel, except the spiders have kind of claimed this area for themselves. I don't think you can see the webs. There's a huge web right here in front of me, one of those circular ones. So we're going to leave that alone. But this trellis has been one of the better ideas that I've followed through on with the garden. It has brought me so much joy just looking at it. And I've been harvesting beans from it still. I think you could still harvest them for eating if you catch them at the right time, like this. But I've been letting a lot of them just go to seed and taking out the dried beans. You can see it's still putting on new flowers, and this is a baby noodle bean right here. So this plant has been producing all year. I think if you have a long season, you could definitely grow these the whole season. And the bees are still loving the zinnias. Oh, wow. So this area that is bare now, leading up to the corn, this is going to be one of the first areas I plant with brassicas in like 3 or 4 weeks, probably more like 3 weeks. Those will be going in this area. And it's easy because I don't have to pull anything up from here. I mean, there's a few vines that still need to be pulled up, but this area is basically cleared itself for me, which is like really convenient. Something else exciting happening is I got my first raised bed to go in this area. I'm thinking it will be 3 this way and maybe 3 more here and 1 here if I get that ambitious. I got these from Vego, V-E-G-O. They're kind of expensive, which I started with just 1. I wanted to see if I liked it. And it is a lot of work to put together a raised bed, so I didn't want to be doing all of them at once. But I will have a video out on how I'm putting this together and the methodology for filling it. So don't worry about that. This is another neighborhood cat that likes to hang out. I don't know her name. She's very beautiful, but also very skittish. So lastly, we get to check out all of the potted plants and how they're doing. I don't know if y'all remember, I had a potato here that has now died, and I guess I need to dig them now. That is on the list of things to be done. And y'all can see the basil. Sick looking basil. It's pretty much done being productive and edible for me. But the peppers are still doing great. They're still pretty happy. Tabasco coming into its first flush. Some of this is weed. This is stevia. Some of these weeds in here, I can't just like move the pots and mow underneath them because the pots put roots down through the holes. And I realized very early on that that is a good thing because then I don't have to water them nearly as much. They looked very sad after I had moved them the first time. This purple basil is doing okay. I could maybe still pull a little bit more from that. There might be a batch of pesto left in the garden yet, guys. We'll have to see. Oh, and this one, this is my Cayenne. You can see it has bushed out quite a lot and is putting on brand new flowers and little baby peppers. So we will have a lot more Cayenne soon. And my Tabasco is doing the thing I said it would, where once it starts turning, it looks kind of like a flowering plant. Which it is a flowering plant, but these are not the flowers. The flowers are these cute little white things. Oh, what else? Malabar spinach. Oh, some of it is starting to turn. You can see that dark berry. And if you smush it, it can be used for dyeing things, but bear in mind you need a lot of it to do that, and some skill that I don't have. I think despite everything, my chamomile survived. I haven't seen it much because it hides within all these weeds, but it is still technically alive. I haven't harvested very many flowers off of it though. Alright guys, that is all I have for you today. I know it's a little shorter than usual, but there's a lot less going on in the garden. And like I said, I think that that is important to see, so that when you get to the end of your first gardening season and everything starts to look sad and starts to die, you know that is what's supposed to happen. And it doesn't mean that you did anything wrong. That is just the cycle completing. This is what you don't see all the time, but that's just how it goes. And it is okay to look at your dying plants and think, yeah, I'd rather use this space for something more beautiful, and take it out before it's really done. You have that power as the gardener. I am letting stuff go a little bit longer because I don't have seedlings to put out yet. But once I do, then I will start tearing out some stuff, even if it's still producing, because it will be coming to the end of its productive season. Not to mention, fingers crossed, I should actually get to move into my real house soon-ish. So all of these potted plants will have to be dealt with somehow. Alrighty guys, thank you so much for watching. If you're not already subscribed, I really encourage you to do so because subscribing helps me out a lot. I am trying to eventually make a living doing this, and you subscribing, watching my videos, it really does help out. So if you've already subscribed, thank you so much, and thank you for all of your lovely comments every week. I will never get tired of reading those. Until next time, I wish you guys all happy gardening. Man, you ready to go inside? Oh yeah.